Hello and welcome to the Pre-Chiro podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, and today we're making a professional chiropractor connection out in Europe with Dr. Tom Lawrence. Dr. Tom, can you get us started by just introducing yourself and reflecting on what it was that attracted you to become a chiropractor, what your background was before you went into chiropractic school, and just help us understand your story?
Cool. So I'm Tom. I'm a practicing chiropractor in the UK. I've been graduated 2012 now. This time seems to have gone very, very quickly over a short amount of time. And we've got two practices in the UK. So we've got a Goose Lane Clinic and Hollins Lane Clinic. And we had our 10th year anniversary 3 weeks ago, which is absolutely wild. How quick that time's gone. My chiropractic is no massive chiropractic story. I was playing sport at relatively high level and had a shoulder injury, and at the time I was looking to just go into a profession that helped people. And I originally started looking at different things and then started talking myself out of it and looking at different medical routes. So I got really despondent with the medical education and system because I was always interested in like mechanics and orthopedics, and over time I realized as I was going to all these universities that it was after a certain amount of training you became the guy that just did the wrist off or you just did the knee replacement, and it just didn't fill me with joy. So when I was looking at where to go and what course of training, my whole family was being adjusted by a chiropractor just around the corner from where we are now. And I was going in for shoulder care. I was with a soft tissue therapist, Trish. And I was telling her I was a bit lost, and she was just looking at me going, go and observe Pete. And that was it. I was done. I was absolutely hooked. I remember going in for my first observation and seeing literally a 80-year-old lady walk in, and then the next person was like an 8-year-old. And then somebody who was doing sports and somebody who was just coming in because of general aches and pains, and thinking, holy crap, like this is natural. There's so much variance in this and so much scope. And that was it. Never looked back. Just went straight into the profession, 2 feet first, straight into outside of college, and that was it. Trained and graduated 4 years later, and then moved from there.
Oh, we're going to tease out the details. What sport were you playing at a relatively high level, and how did that sport help you in your development with your skill set and your artistry, and just how you developed your approach as a chiropractor?
I don't know if it actually did go to do all those things. I was playing the really manly sport of badminton, so lots of quick movements and flicking and that sort of stuff. But at that stage, I was county and being trained probably like 5-6 times a week, and eventually realized that there was other things in life, probably like partying and alcohol and women, and that was it. I still played throughout university, but it became more like regional teams, and then playing for like local leagues and stuff like that, and then I kind of phased it out. I wouldn't say that it was something that contributed to my professional upbringing. Probably the last.
When I was in chiropractic school, we played a lot of ping pong, and that fast twitch muscle fiber from the chest and tricep has a lot to do with delivering adjustments with speed and specificity, and like having it come through you and not from you, and just being able to have that muscle memory and those body mechanics. I think there's something to it, but we don't have to go there. I'm just curious, when you were in school, who were your mentors? What paths did you take as far as different techniques or approaches, or where was your passions and interests at? What did you think, or how would you describe, like maybe also some of the surprises you encountered or some of the challenges that you're seeing students facing in chiropractic school?
I think it might be a little bit different in the UK. The exposure that we have is a lot less than what it should be. I mean, actively at university, when I was going through the training, so 2008 till 2012, the head lecturers and the head of the courses specifically said, you don't go and see anybody, you don't do any additional training outside of university, which is very, very scary. And the idea that you would go and do any kind of technique or expose yourself to any other learning other than what was on the curriculum was shunned, and you were kind of pre-programmed that was happening. There's a lot of political things going on and are still going on in the UK, especially at the old university I was going to, where actively from various associations in the UK, people have been banned from going in and speaking. So it's a different environment. I know that in the UK, thankfully, there are now more universities appearing than when I originally graduated. I think we've now got about 5, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, very shortly there'll be another one in Edinburgh that Ross is backing. And I've been going around the universities recently. I've been over the last month going to go and do student events, and there is a definitive change in one of them where the chiropractic students are definitely looking for more things outside, and getting involved, and even setting up seminars underground, which is really interesting to look at. But I would say that if we're talking, say, like about who my mentors are probably now, and who are looked up in the profession, when I was actually trained as a student, it was really quite suppressed, which is a really sad thing to say. I don't know how does that compare to where you guys are in the US? Is that different? Or?
It depends on the school you're at. You could be completely spoiled with way too many choices and just almost crippled by the complexity of 5 seminar offerings on one weekend, and which one do I go to? And then if I miss that one, I'm having to wait for it 2 years or a year for it to come back. But students are given lots of options, lots of pathways at certain schools, and then, as you just described, very much suppressing the extracurricular influences and stimulus that students have access to at other schools. And me and you came through school at the same time, 2008 to 2012. Can you talk about some of the best resources, or maybe not best, but some resources that students in Europe have access to, that are maybe the most commonly accessed resources that you see the majority of students going to look for extracurricular stuff, even if it is being suppressed at their schools? And then maybe talk about some of your favorite seminars that you are aware of before we even get into yours, just that you're aware of that are taking place in Europe right now.
Yeah, so I think there's a definitive gap in the UK for students, technique-wise. And there are some fantastic guys who are coming around and who've been going for years, who do physical manual technique seminars. So you've got Brett, and you've obviously got the Syntropy guys coming around. They're obviously global at the minute. There's also pockets of people popping up all around the place, which are just gaining traction. Like I say, we've seen a need to help students and help, well, not even students, people who have been in practice for a couple of years or even up to 20 years. I know a lot of other guys who are coming through and stepping up, like Tom Waller in the UK, who are trying to provide more and more resources and seminars to help people get to where they need to be. I think I'm actually going to talk about, I think in the UK as well, there is a distinct lack of understanding for graduates of not just doing the adjustment, but understanding why they are doing the adjustment and what the effects of the adjustment are. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge for a graduate coming out at the minute. They've got the tools, but they don't really understand what the tools do or the effects that happens. And I've seen it, and one of my biggest advice is to make sure you get a good principal chiropractor, and you go and work and study under them and use that as part of your further education outside of university. And I had a good person to do that with. But I had lots of friends, and you probably had the same, who didn't spend any time or much time because they probably didn't know where to go and working on the foundation of why they were doing chiropractic or doing the chiropractic adjustment. And the trend that we tend to see with practitioners over the first, say, even up to 5 years who are lost and trying to find that understanding is that they start bouncing off more and more protocols. So because they don't understand the why of the adjustment, they might jump to something like SOT because there's a formula there that says if we see X, Y, Z, you do X, A, B, C. So they can't give a logical, like a heartfelt application. They can just see a chart or see a scenario and apply what somebody else has told them to that. I think eventually, especially with my friends who graduated who were doing this pattern of just jumping onto the next protocol, they operate for a set amount of time. It wouldn't make sense after a while, and then they go to the next one. So there's this pattern of practitioners out there who don't have certainty in the why, which is then just collecting more and more tools. And you're nodding away. You've seen that before. So there are, I think, if I was recommending anything for a new graduate, it would be to try and find somebody to try and answer that question. And resources like this that you're doing, and the podcast. There's a friend of mine, Johnny Colley, who does the Chiropractic Why. There's some great philosophy seminars knocking around at the minute. I think Travis is doing one as well. I know people have been to that. All those things should really be the first things that people should jump to. So it's all right learning how to do the practical skill and being good with that fast twitch viper, like you said, but realistically, I'd be recommending any graduate to go and find somebody or find a resource or find a podcast and really utilize their understanding of the effects of an adjustment and what we're trying to achieve. You're nodding away. I hope that's a reasonable answer.
I appreciate you doing your best to go there with me, and also I want to kind of expand your context for what I'm proposing the profession moves in the direction of, which is actually a preparatory training program that allows students to go into offices as you're describing, not after school, but before school, so that they could arrive at school with some clarity of what they want to train on, some orientation and context for why they want to train on those things, and some passion behind their time in school so that they could really spend that time focusing on what they need to focus on, right? You have a seminar called Finding the Primary. Can you kind of introduce us to that and maybe talk about and tease out some details of like where people are at in the beginning of the seminar and where you're trying to take them to by the end of the seminar, or what you're trying to introduce them to and maybe refine and help crystallize for them so that they can maybe just get a little bit better or a little more clarity or a little more certainty during the time spent with you?
Absolutely, I'd love to go into that. I would just like to just explore your thought process there, this pre-Chiro concept, because I think that's really cool. Is that something that you're proposing that is across the board, or is that something that you think this should be something across the board? Yeah.
Well, at the moment, you're very much aware because you keep touching on it and I'm nodding, so I know what you're talking about, that there's certain schools that we're more aligned with because they're more aligned with chiropractic. And we are inspired by what it means to be a chiropractor and practice chiropractic. So we want to support those schools as much as we possibly can in any way that we can. So what I'm proposing is that students, regardless of what school they go to, have an understanding or an awareness that there are other students around the world that have this pre-Chiro pathway. It's a 6-part pathway. It's very comprehensive and it's very in-depth. You could even say that it is the pathway to become a chiropractor, but I'm proposing that it's going to level up our standards for what it means to be a chiropractic student, and then even level up our standards even further, which of what it means to be a professional chiropractor. So yes, I am proposing that no matter what school you go to, there should be a pre-Chiro experience. and that we have standards and some outcomes that we believe are essential for every incoming chiropractic student to have gone through and exposed themselves to beforehand. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is that clear to you, or do you have a specific question about that?
No, I think it's a really cool concept. I would propose a challenge to the profession, though, and I'd propose a challenge for not for chiropractors who are in the business or who have experience to wait until somebody else sets this up, but to actually start now and start taking on students. I've got a scholarship program which I've already launched with not obviously in the region, but what we do is we have people, once they come in and they're interested in being a chiropractor, they do observations, and then what we do is we set them on, if we like them, for summer work. They become part of the practice, and then we actually, if we feel that they're committing to the profession, we actually set them on a scholarship where we train, well, outside of university. They do mentorship with me throughout the 4 or 5 years, and we help them a little bit financially through that process as well. So we've noticed a definitive change from the guys that we have had joined the team straight as a graduate to those that have been with us for 5 years or 4 years whilst they've been doing the training and then coming into practice. So, and over the next 5 years, we've got 6 or 7 students at different universities at different levels already doing this and joining the team. They know they're secure, and all of that. We know that we've got some people who are part of the team and already up to par, which is really cool. So if there's any chiropractors listening out there who think this is a great idea, then why not start now?
I was going to say, can you maybe, for clarity sense, you're saying that you've identified, or you've put the invitation out there, you found these 5 or 6 students, and you've invited them to come participate in observations and supporting the practices, and you're training them in a sense through those experiences, and then you maintain a relationship with them while they're in chiropractic school. So when they graduate, they already have a skill set, they're familiar, they've experienced it. Is that right? And are you providing a stipend or like a small amount of money just to continue that incentivizing them, or continue to incentivize them to
So what we do is we for every year that they graduate or every year that they pass, there's a different amount of money all the way up until the final year. We provide them with set amount of seminars, and I think per year. Plus, then they also work summer work with us. So it's not just that they're coming in and observing; they're physically, running the role of a tech CA or spending time on the front desk or just in the room with us. So the gaining, it's not just that they're there for an observation, they're gaining experience in all aspects of the practice, or doing the screening events with us, so by the time they come out, they're already integrated into the team, they already know the models of actually what they're doing, they've had loads of exposure by going to all the different experiences I'm putting all the rest of the clinicians through, and the results are unreal. I think if we want to change a community, we have to put these steps in place so that the effects when they come into practice are so much more widespread. And that's what we're doing in our little community, and I'd hope that other people would be doing the same elsewhere, and especially in the UK. I mean, there's only around 3,500 chiropractors, and the ongoing moan that we hear at different conferences and everything else is, oh, it's hard to get a new graduate, it's hard to employ. It's not if you're cultivating these people to be an integral part of the team over the time that they're training. So I implore any chiropractor in the UK or anywhere to start thinking about not just looking to get somebody as they graduate, but to be taking them on before and working with them and supporting them throughout, because the effects are massive for them and are massive for you and massive for the community.
So just to keep building context for you, the first stage is the foundations. What is chiropractic? Why do people become chiropractors? Why is chiropractic so vital of importance to humanity? The second stage is what are the skill sets that chiropractors have to develop within themselves? So I broke innate into your inner state. So it's your inner scientist, thinker, artist, teacher, entrepreneur, and just exposing them to the progressions that different people have through these interviews. I chop up these interviews and then I just add them into the curriculum. And then the third stage is the apprenticeship. So it's, if you go to an office, what are the things to explore and expose yourself to and experience for yourself? And then the fourth stage is actually, I believe, very innovative. It's encouraging them to start their own pre-chiropractic club on their college campus. And I think that as we see more and more students who have been through these experiences starting their own clubs, it gives them that real world confidence that, hey, I can connect with people about this. I can help other people. I can help other students. There's many different things built into that. And then the fifth stage is the independent study, capstone, creative, expression of your understanding of chiropractic before you go to chiropractic school. And then the sixth stage is the admissions process, like, what are your options, how to ask questions of admissions departments, how to go on tours, how to change locations, so on and so forth. I'm bringing you into the fold so that I can ask you the question of like, what stands out to you on what I just talked about, and what do you think it would take to get this established through your eyes in the UK, or is there interest that you're sensing that just we need more structure to meet the needs of those interested? Do you think that there's a lot of people interested, but they just don't have support, and so they move on to the next profession? I'm just curious. We're having a conversation.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept, and I think if you could, I've never heard of it before. I've never heard of your program. Maybe it's something that it needs to be, I don't know, maybe packaged and publicised more. I think it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea to sign up to.
Sweet. Yeah. Let's talk about finding the primary. Let's talk about your inspiration for having started that. Where does that fit in as far as the offerings that are out there? How have you sort of positioned the seminar? What can you kind of share with us what the seminar is all about?
So the seminar, there's actually 4 seminars. There's 4 that go on. There's finding the primary. Now, finding the primary is we have the foundational course. So that is the tool for people to try and work out where in somebody's neurology is the most efficient place to place an adjustment. And it talks about making sure that it's not just in the right place, but in the right vector. And make sure that you are not missing potential sensory or other tissues that may be giving feedback to the brain. We talk a lot in chiropractic that we're functional neurologists, and that we're working with the brain. But I think there is apparently more and more signs that a lot of practitioners out there, when they're talking about that, have the expectations that if I just hit anything, if I just try and clear what I can see as a restricted joint, that the brain has the functionality to just, and the magic and the power just to correct everything. And it's not the case. There is when we're working with somebody, it has to be an accountability of where we place an adjustment and the understanding of whether that potentially is supporting them towards health and ease, or whether it's pushing them further into the dis-ease and potentially creating subluxation. So the idea is that we wanted to get something together which is asking a person's innate where and what it requires to move it with clarity towards health. So it's been constructed between me and another guy, Tom. Tom's done a lot of work on this, and we've gone away, and we're not going to be arrogant enough to say that we've created every little aspect. We've not. We've gone away and we've looked at all different remits of chiropractic and try to put it together into something, or try to put something together that we think works, that any practitioner can pick up, whether they're chiropractor or even an osteopath, whether they all our team trains on it. So in my clinic, I'm just chiropractic and sports therapy, but the whole team trains on it, so they have everyone is on the same page, has an understanding of where we need to move and what we need to do. It doesn't matter what technique you use. So it doesn't matter if you're doing activator, it doesn't matter if you're doing a nuka adjustment, or it doesn't matter if you're doing a toggle or a diversified. It's not about the application of your art, it's about understanding where and when to apply it. We have students coming through, and I think the last one that we did, which was about 2 weeks ago, we had somebody who's been in practice for 25 years. So the spectrum is huge, but the need is huge as well. And I think allowing people to sit in the presence and the power of an adjustment as well is huge, because I think in a lot of ways, I practice open plan, and practicing open plan gives me space to hold space for somebody to integrate an adjustment as we are adjusting. There's a lot of people, I think, who have got into the routine of doing an adjustment and then straight away moving straight to the next segment, into the next segment, and da 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 da. But when we think about how, if we're stimulating an area of the sensory cortex, we're trying to, and it's in the right position and right place, there could be a complete change in how that neurology is affected. And the ultimate aim is we want to try and get people out of the sympathetic dominance into a parasympathetic system. So if I've analysed someone correctly, which doesn't take long at all, and applied an adjustment, and suddenly they go into a state change and their neurology is trying to integrate, we need to give them space and presence to allow that to happen. And if we don't, we start robbing the person of the effects and the power of what the adjustment is, because we're just trying to get the next restriction moved. So it's been eye-opening over the last 3 years, and it's been incredible to see people fall back in love with chiropractic again. Actual chiropractic, not manual therapy. And sitting back and doing an adjustment and seeing someone's breath change on the bench, or seeing a flush, like skin flush, or a change within a complete system. So that's why I'm passionate about it. That's why me and Tom are trying to build this in the UK and then hopefully further, because we want to bring chiropractic back, and we want people to have certainty in what they're doing, not just certainty in being certain for no reason, which I think is also peddled a lot in the chiropractic space. Is the whole idea of we're going to drop into what? Drop into the effects of the adjustment, or just dropping into internally you just being focused and not speaking and trying to feel yourself. So there you go.
No, it's beautiful. And you said that there's 4 different experiences that you offer to people. Is that sort of the common theme throughout all 4, or was that the foundation of the first one, which is that we're working with we're working with the neurology, and we're trying to allow people to integrate?
Yeah. So the first one we've got is the foundational course. So that is the how do we do an analysis on a day-to-day basis and in practice to show you where and in what vectors to adjust. So by that weekend, we hope to give you the tools to be able to move on and start applying this the next day in practice. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect at it straight away, but we're there to support you. And we've had people who come on the course 2, 3, 4 times, and each time the change in exponential, absolutely exponential in them and in the practices. We've got 2 courses then which are just in the primary. So we found then that there's a need for somebody to actually home in and on the skill set of how to apply the adjustment, because we might be talking to somebody and being like, oh, well, the test has indicated that we need an anterior pull on C2. And people look at you gone out like, huh? You can adjust anteriorly, not just in the PA position. So we've realized that we've had to bring in a skill set course, which is we've got adjusting the primary module A, which is basically from top of the head down to the fingertips, all the way including the neck and the upper cervical and lower cervical, first ribs, anterior chest. And then we've got module B, which is basically from the chest down to the toe. So those two are just for the chiropractors, for the osteopaths, which are there to give them the manual adjustment skill. And then we've got an advanced course. So once you've gone for the foundation, then we bring in the advanced course if people are ready for it, which is then moving on to high levels of adjusting and adjusting into fields and different levels of application and trying to change maybe some of the stress that's on the body to see a wider effect. This one's stable. So we're going to be doing our first advanced course in December this year in Cardiff in Wales. But the rest of the year, we've got the adjustments and the foundations, which are I think we've got about another 4 or 6 booked this year, which is really cool.
That's really cool. Thank you for providing that as an opportunity, because as you said, there's really, I don't want to call it a desert where there's no opportunities to grow and learn and expand your context and just expand your skills. But it sounds like you're bringing a new offering, an important offering to a very low access environment out there. So do you have any intentions on or any visions that you'd like to share for this that you've begun with the other Tom and this movement that you're starting as far as building a community out there in the UK, or just what you would like to see potentially 5 years from now if we were to have a best case, dare I say, near perfect scenario for the chiropractic profession in Europe? I'll continue on with my Europe theme, even though I know that you're in one of the countries.
Yeah, I mean, our vision is to try and get people potentially back in love with chiropractic who might not be feeling that at the moment. We've had that on courses already. The other thing that we want to do is, like I said, move away from, or get people actually thinking about consistently moving practice members' care forward in a set way, and not just having a proper screen and routine that means that people are achieving what is potentially out there to be achieved, instead of having this idea that my innate is telling me that I need to remove a subluxation at T5 on the right side for you. Well, I'm sorry, that's not the case. Your innate is designed to look after me. My innate doesn't give a shit what your innate wants. It's there to provide me. So we have to start thinking about. Our vision is to try and get people thinking about actually challenging somebody's system itself and getting feedback, and then with that feedback, move it into a space where they can then provide the best care possible. And I think that's going to be a real change. It's going to be hard for some people to make the transition. I had to do a rain check on myself probably 7 years into practice or 8 years into practice, and go from a moment of okay, and seeing good reasonable numbers from what I would consider, and then go, actually something's not right here. I need to start thinking and moving and changing what I'm doing and re-educating my community and re-educating my patient base. But we'd love for it to become an environment where people are actually thinking about where the primary is and what's happening and how we can help somebody, and making it a lot more integration with their own body and their own being in essence. So that's it.
Having grown up in your world, shall we call it, what can you say as a nice simple 1 or 2 minute message to a high school student or a college student, just to introduce them to chiropractic, but also to maybe speak in a language they're familiar with, and maybe also acknowledge how the education system works out there, how maybe they have to choose a pathway and this is not really on their radar, but you're inviting them to explore more if it calls to them some of the basics of what our profession's about?
My message to somebody who's in university would be to get out and just explore. Go. There's some incredible people in our profession. There's some incredible people in the UK in our profession, and we're all here to support you. Like, so try and branch out and utilize us as much as you can do. And that there's a different world out there. That's the crazy thing, and it's not all just about a joint mechanic. There's actually a higher level that you can serve at by the effects of what you do. So chiropractic, there's a reason why it's as big as it is, and it's not because it's helping with a hamstring strain. It's there because it's helping people become as healthy and optimum as they can be. And that's where the real fun starts. That's where the real changes you'll see in your work and your community will be. But you've got to allow that space to happen. And you've got to allow yourself to go and learn and spend time with these people, whether at the time you think it's right, they're right or not, but humor me. And even if you think like me, even if you think what I'm saying, I'm one of the biggest weirdos out there, come and spend some time with them. And even if you don't like it, it'll set your barometer in whichever direction is right for you. So it was actually quite funny, Ben. Me and being one of my associates years ago when he used to work with me, he used to play games. We'd walk into a seminar, we'd be like, right, let's find the weirdest person here and get an adjustment. But that's where all the breakthroughs happen, because that was that's where you start realizing, oh wow, there's some incredible things out there. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, we can wrap up. I know it's getting late over there and you've had a really long day, but I guess I'm just wanting you to tease out a little bit more details as an introduction to a prospective student who's not really familiar with chiropractic. Maybe you can speak to how osteopathy is really strong in the Europe, and maybe just even one or two ways of how we are different from osteopaths, so that students who are thinking about becoming osteopaths can at least just add this to their list of possibilities in their mind?
I think that's a misconception. I don't think osteopathy in the UK is actually as big as what people think. And I already know in the last year, I think 2 universities which have shut, 2 of the major ones. I think in the UK as well, originally there was a huge difference. One was about blood flow, one was about nervous system function. Nowadays, I think with the universities, a lot of it is very much the same. I think there's a big drive for them both to become more integrated with physiotherapy and manual care. But I think there is a difference once you come out, but not between the professions. I think the main difference is between the practitioners, and it doesn't matter anymore. I think in the UK, which one you do. My biggest recommendation would be go and try and explore all avenues once you got your certificate, because the biggest difference is how you approach cases and how you approach care. There's osteopaths that have come onto our courses and completely change the way that they practice. But there's chiropractors I know that are out there which would rather do 45 minutes of soft tissue work and not adjust, which is a very, very scary concept for me.
I mean, the question becomes, are they really chiropractors? Are they even practicing chiropractic if that's what they're doing? And I'm not here to judge anybody, but I also am here to try and differentiate our path and our profession. I think that there is a clear distinction, and I know that you know what the distinctions are. maybe me being so open-ended about it, and wanting you to really talk about maybe how, if you're a college student or a high school student and you've never heard of chiropractic, well, you can think of it at first in the physical medicine world, and then you can go deeper and understand its connections to neurology or psychology or spirituality or energy and quantum physics. I mean, you can go in many different directions with deepening your understanding of what chiropractic is relevant and related to. That's all I was kind of inviting you
right.
to. I'm basically trying to talk to you as if you were a guidance counselor and I'm the student, and you're advising me on ways to get clear as to, like, do I really want to become an osteopath? Why do I want to become an osteopath? Have I considered chiropractic? Why would I even want to become a chiropractor? What are the motivating factors? What is special about chiropractic that you could do as a chiropractor that you can't do as an osteopath? I think until we can get, some solid, clear messaging on behalf of our profession to these prospective students, then prospective students will be reliant on whoever's office they walk into. And if they walk into a chiropractor's office that's doing 45 minutes of soft tissue and not adjusting them and think this is chiropractic, why would they go become a chiropractor after that? They'd probably be uninspired, or they would be confused. Either way, they're not going to chiropractic school. You know what I mean? And it's not my thing to get more people to go to chiropractic school per se. It's my thing to, like, just position and establish a presence of our path in front of people who are looking for a purpose and want to make the most of their time here on earth. So anyway, I can rant on this stuff, but I appreciate you humoring me by trying to answer my questions. I'm really trying to have a conversation with you and just, help you see that you're not just talking to an American chiropractor, but you're talking to, like, this prospective student who's, like, really trying to figure this out, right? They're 15, they're 17, maybe they're 25, but they're not really clear on, like, what to do with themselves. So anyway, I applaud your efforts in the Europe area. It sounds like you're not just doing it in your local hometown. You're traveling to where the universities are that have chiropractic students, and that takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy. Profession doesn't probably thank you enough for all the efforts that you are putting forth. And as you know, it's probably like 2% of our profession putting forth 98% of the effort to help strengthen. I think, our profession is just seriously weakened. It's not dead, but it's seriously weakened, and it needs to be revived. It needs to be reconnected, right? There's many subluxations that are blocking or interfering with our profession's ability to really reach its potential. So these are the types of conversations I think that at least get something going in your head. And you're right, I need to package it and promote it better. It's getting very close. I feel like it's a 12-year process that I've been on. I'm trying to work on this, and by not releasing any of what I've done, it's enabled me to, like, really get it to a place where it's really strong, a lot stronger. And also, as you know, over these last 10, 12 years, our minds have really developed and grown, and our understanding has grown. So anyway, final thoughts, my friend?
Not a lot. It's been a long old day.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. And yeah, thank you.
Cheers, man. Thank you, man.